After the sudden death of his father, Sebastian, a young boy full of potential, was left to navigate life alongside his mother, Elena. The death of her husband cast a shadow over their modest existence, and Elena struggled to provide for them. She found work as a housekeeper for the Daniels family, a wealthy and powerful couple, Peter and Margaret Daniels, who worked as elite financial advisors from their mansion. Elena, though not formally educated, was sharp and perceptive. She had a knack for absorbing information and soon found herself learning more than just cleaning. The Daniels' work was centered around wealth-building strategies, stocks, bonds, and investments. Elena spent countless hours cleaning their study and overhearing conversations about their business dealings. Over time, her understanding of the financial world grew. She began to apply some of the advice she overheard, investing small amounts of her earnings. At first, it was modest, but soon Elena's investments started to pay off. Slowly, her own wealth began to grow, unbeknownst to the Daniels, who never realized how much their casual conversations had influenced her. Meanwhile, Sebastian spent his early childhood growing up alongside their daughter, Leila. They were inseparable. They played, laughed, and formed a bond that would last into their teenage years. As they grew older, Sebastian began to see Leila differently. By the time they were in high school, Sebastian had developed strong feelings for her, but Leila, distracted by her own life and unaware of Sebastian's changing feelings, saw him only as the little boy who'd once been her best friend. To prove himself, Sebastian enlisted in the Air Force after graduation. His time in the military transformed him. The awkward, lanky boy was replaced with a confident, striking young man with a disciplined body and a sharp mind. As Sebastian neared the end of his service, he realized that he had become someone entirely different from the boy who had left. Sebastian returned home on leave, deciding to visit his mother at the Daniels estate. He had changed, but the house had remained the same. The grand mansion, the manicured gardens, and the sparkling fountain at the center of the driveway, the place where he had once spent his childhood, now felt distant, like a dream. The estate was no longer a playground, it had become a reminder of his past. As he approached the front door, he couldn't help but smile. The memories rushed back. He knocked on the door, and it was Carla, the housemaid, who answered. Her eyes widened as she took in Sebastian's new appearance, a tall, strong man in military uniform. Elena, there's someone at the door, Carla called out, her voice filled with surprise. Elena hurried to the door, her heart skipping a beat when she saw her son standing there, the man she had barely recognized. Sebastian, my boy, look at you, Elena exclaimed, her voice cracking with emotion as she embraced him. It's good to see you, Mom, Sebastian replied, a warmth in his eyes as he held her. Carla stared in awe. This is your son, Elena. The Sebastian I used to play with. He's a completely different person. Well, he is now, Elena said, pride shining in her eyes. My son has become a man. The commotion caught the attention of Peter and Margaret Daniels, who entered the foyer, both stopping short as they saw Sebastian standing before them. Sebastian? Peter asked, his voice laced with surprise. Last time I saw you, you were just a skinny kid running through these gardens. Sebastian offered a polite smile, shaking Peter's hand. Good to see you again, Mr. Daniels. Margaret's eyes softened as she stepped forward. Elena, you must be so proud. Sebastian, you've turned into quite the young man. I have, Sebastian replied, his gaze shifting to the stairs as he heard footsteps approaching. Leila entered the room, unaware of what was going on. She was absorbed in her phone, not noticing the gathering in the foyer. But when she looked up, her eyes locked on Sebastian. For a long moment, there was silence. Leila stared at him, perplexed. I'm sorry, do I know you? Her tone was polite but unsure. Sebastian chuckled, a touch of amusement in his eyes. You could say that. Margaret, sensing the tension, couldn't help but add, Leela, darling, this is Sebastian, your childhood friend. Leela's mouth dropped open in disbelief. Sebastian? No way. The Sebastian who used to put frogs in my shoes. Sebastian smirked. Guilty as charged. But I promise I'm more refined now. Leela's face flushed, her cheeks turning pink as she looked him up and down. Wow, you've changed. I'll take that as a compliment, Sebastian teased, his smile playful. Later that evening, Sebastian joined Elena in the kitchen. She was preparing dinner, a dish he remembered from his childhood. As she worked, she paused, casting a glance over at him. You never told me you were coming, she said, her voice full of surprise and warmth. I wanted to surprise you, Sebastian replied, leaning against the counter. You've done so well here, Mom. The Daniels really respect you. They've been kind to me, Elena said, smiling softly. But I'm more proud of you. Everything you've done. It's remarkable, Sebastian. Their conversation was interrupted by Leela, who hesitated in the doorway. Hey, she said, her voice quieter than usual. I just wanted to say hi. Properly this time. Sebastian smiled, the connection between them undeniable now. Hi, Leela. Elena, sensing the shift, smiled knowingly and excused herself from the room. Leela stepped closer, leaning against the counter. You really threw me off earlier, she admitted, her voice softer now. I mean, who are you? And what did you do with the old Sebastian? Sebastian chuckled, his gaze playful but sincere. He's still here, just a little more polished now. Leela smiled, her cheeks flushed. I can see that. So, the Air Force. What's that like? It's challenging, Sebastian said, his voice steady. But rewarding. I've learned a lot about discipline, teamwork, and flying jets. Leela's smile widened. Sounds impressive. I can't believe how much you've changed. Sebastian nodded, his voice a little quieter. What about you? Last I heard, you were planning to go to college. I'm working with my parents now, Leela explained. In finance, mostly. It's intense, but I love it. Sebastian raised an eyebrow. You were always ambitious, Leela shrugged. I guess so. You always seemed like the kind of guy who would get where he wanted. Sebastian's gaze softened. I think you always knew that about me. The air between them crackled with tension. For the first time, Leela saw Sebastian in a way she never had before, as more than just a childhood friend. She saw a man, a strong, capable, and incredibly handsome man, and something inside her shifted. Leela and her girlfriends sat at their usual table in the trendy rooftop lounge, sipping cocktails and stealing glances at Sebastian. The man who had once been just the quiet son of the housekeeper was now commanding attention wherever he went. Leela still remembered the way he used to look at her, like she was the center of his world. Back then, she had barely noticed him, dismissing his boyish crush as nothing more than a passing phase. After all, he was just the son of a woman who cleaned her family's house, someone beneath her notice. But now he was different. Tall, broad-shouldered, and effortlessly charismatic, Sebastian had transformed into a man who turned heads without even trying. His deep, smooth voice and self-assured presence made him magnetic. He carried himself with quiet confidence, an air of mystery that only made him more irresistible. God, look at him, Claire sighed, twirling the straw in her drink. How did we not notice him before? Because he used to be invisible, Nadia said, biting her lip as she watched him laugh with a group of men across the room. But now, I'd kill for a chance with him. Leela forced a smirk, leaning back in her chair as she sipped her drink. You can have him, she said coolly, waving her hand dismissively. I'm not interested. The words felt like a lie even as she spoke them. Something about Sebastian had unsettled her from the moment she saw him again. He wasn't just handsome, he was sharp, composed, and completely unfazed by their world of wealth and privilege. He wasn't chasing status or begging for attention. If anything, he seemed above it all. Little did she know, Sebastian only had eyes for her. Sebastian had spent years watching from the shadows, growing up under the same roof but in entirely different worlds. His mother, Elena, had been the perfect housekeeper, always observant, always listening. What no one realized was that Elena had been studying more than just how to keep a house spotless. She had been learning how to build wealth. From whispered conversations between her employers to casually discarded financial reports, she absorbed every detail. She started small, investing a few $100s here, a few thousand there, making smart, calculated risks. Over the years, her keen instincts turned her modest savings into a fortune. By the time Sebastian was old enough to understand, his mother had become a self-made millionaire, though she had never revealed the extent of her wealth, not even to him. Now, Sebastian moved through high society with effortless ease, but he owed none of it to the people who once overlooked him. He had built his own path, crafted his own destiny. And as he scanned the room, his gaze landed on Leela. She was pretending, he could tell. Pretending she didn't care. Pretending she wasn't intrigued. But he knew her better than she thought. The little flickers of attention, the way she avoided his gaze a second too late, the way she shifted in her seat when their eyes met, she wanted him. Sebastian is looking right at you, Claire whispered excitedly, nudging Leela's arm. Leela rolled her eyes, playing it off. Please, he's probably looking at you. Claire grinned and smoothed down her dress. Well, let's find out. She stood up, ready to approach him, but before she could take a step, Sebastian made his move. He walked past Claire as if she wasn't even there, heading straight for Leela. Leela. His voice was warm but firm, his gaze steady. She blinked up at him, caught off guard. Sebastian. Dance with me. It wasn't a request. It was a challenge. And for the first time in her life, Leela felt like the one being pursued. The music swelled around them, but Leela barely heard it. Sebastian held her close, his touch familiar yet different, more certain, more composed. The quiet boy who used to trail after her was gone. In his place stood a man who knew exactly what he wanted. And that terrified her. You've changed, she murmured, their steps in sync. His lips twitched. Have I? She nodded. You're confident now. You don't wait around anymore. Sebastian studied her, his grip tightening ever so slightly. Maybe I got tired of waiting. The words hit harder than she expected. But before she could respond, the song ended, and he released her. Thank you for the dance, Leela. A ghost of a smile played on his lips before he turned away. And just like that, he was gone. Leela watched from across the ballroom as Sebastian laughed at something one of her friends said. He looked effortless, confident, a far cry from the boy who once followed her with stars in his eyes. She hated that her heart raced when he glanced her way. She hated even more that he immediately looked away, as if she was just another face in the crowd. Her friends were relentless. You had your chance, Leela. You said you weren't interested, remember? Gia teased, sipping her champagne. I'm still not, Leela lied, forcing a smirk. If you want him, go ahead. They didn't need any more encouragement. One by one, they took their shots, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm a little too long, finding reasons to get closer. But Sebastian. He entertained them, sure, but his eyes always drifted back to Leela. And that drove her insane. She had spent years convincing herself that Sebastian had been a childhood distraction, a fleeting crush. Now he was standing there, sculpted by time and confidence, looking at her like she was the only person in the room. It didn't help that his mother had outmaneuvered everyone in this town. The woman who once scrubbed floors now held investments that could buy and sell most of the people in this room twice over. And yet, she had never flaunted it. Never let anyone suspect that she had turned whispers in hallways and financial tips overheard in passing into an empire. Not even Sebastian knew just how powerful his mother had become. A sharp pang of regret settled in Leela's chest as he finally approached her, leaving her friends behind without a second thought. "Still pretending you don't see me?" he asked, his voice lower, smoother than she remembered. She tilted her chin, masking the nervous energy rising in her chest. "I see you." His lips curled in amusement. "And?" She swallowed hard. "And nothing." Sebastian studied her for a long moment, then smirked. "If you say so." He turned to leave, and for the first time in her life, Leela felt something she never had before, real fear. The fear of losing something she hadn't even admitted she wanted. Her fingers twitched at her side. A single moment to decide. A lifetime to live with it. She opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, the music swelled, laughter filled the air, and Sebastian disappeared into the crowd. Leela stood there, breathless, wondering if she had just lost her chance forever. The end.